I looked at WeatherBug just a second ago, and it is north of us. I don't know who's in charge of weather for Lakeshore, but for 6 summers straight, now 7, it's not rained on us and stopped us. It may rain on us, though. I'm not sure. Again, a shout out to the, please thank the musicians today. And as you continue to clap, Nathan and Paul and CB and our technological crew, they do a fabulous job, our sound engineers. And then you don't have to clap, but again, the staff, Shay and Whitney and Melissa and all of them work so hard to put this together. Cody, they get with it and manage all of this so that we get to enjoy it. It's touching to me to see all the men and women wearing your insignia, the veterans that we have among us, so thank you, and I mean that deeply. I see the 82nd Airborne and the Marine Corps and the Air Force, and so give them an applause. For some of them, I am reminded that thunder is really the sounds that they heard actually in battle. So thank you for all of us. Did you see the wonderful video this last week? It is just fabulous. The Belgian shot putter who ran the high hurdles. It has gone viral. Millions of people have watched it. She's this big, attractive, electric young woman, 6 feet something, muscle bound, and she's on the Belgian national team. It's at the European finals. It's the run-up to the Olympics. These are Olympians, most of them. And their high hurdlers were injured, and she said, I'll do it. And, everybody's going to make fun of you. This is ridiculous. And there she is on the starting line, and she jogs, and then she actually gets over those high hurdles to finish. And she ran in something like 38 seconds, and she was like, she was 38 seconds behind the winners. She was so far behind. And yet she had a big smile on her face. They said, why'd you do this? She said, because I'm part of the team. And we were going to forfeit the points, and we needed them to win. And it was a team effort. And what's on the uptake of this is that's exactly what went viral. This thing about her being part of a team. And if I have anything to say to you, it's that. Where did the team go that we had that was America? And do we still have it? And I think we do, but I think we need to preserve it. And a lot of people are talking about it, writing about it. There's plenty to read about it. I don't do politics, but I want to remind you of one thing. In the beginning, the church was at the center of the heartbeat of what this venture, this movement of America would become, and it still is today. So we need to speak. And I feel like that young shot putter, Yolene, in that I'm out of my lane a bit, because I know nothing more than you about democracy, freedom. Some of you have served as ambassadors, mayors, the military, traveled, served the country, the Peace Corps. I know lots of you have given your lives to this country, and most of you are devoted to this country. So it's a we speak, not a I speak. So on this 247th anniversary, what would we say? What would be our speak? Well, I do one thing, I study. So that's what I do on every July the 4th. I've often preached on July the 4th for this celebration, and it's because I've read something. And so I read 2 things. One, I went through and read a lot of the Federalist Papers. Have you read them? Written in 87, the ambassador over there has, 87 and 88. Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, John Jay, they put their pen to paper, and it was for a purpose, to vote for the Constitution to govern us all. But I want to read you a few quick words. Remember this. This was the inception of what we live, and I think we take it for granted. He wrote, Alexander Hamilton, the regular distribution of power into departments, the introduction of legislative balances and checks, the institution of courts composed of judges, holding offices during good behavior, the representation of the people in the legislature by deputies of their own election, These are wholly new discoveries. They were new. They had never been tried, and we live them. But honestly, I believe, and I know that I do, I take them as just an assumption. Why do I do that? I'm not really sure. And then it got me to think more deeply. If we thought together, what would we think? And so I picked up a book that's been on the bestseller list for some time, last few weeks. Richard Haas, some of you may have read it. It's called The Bill of Obligations. He was the president of the Council of Foreign Affairs for 20, 30 years. He's a prominent writer, speaker. It's a nonpartisan think tank group. He has worked under Democrats, Republicans, independents. So his voice to me rings out in that it's not about politics, which is policy making. He's writing about democracy, about how to manage a republic. And this book will challenge you. It challenged me greatly. And it's short, concise, easy to read. You can read it in a few days. And he is concerned about the things we've seen about us, the partisanship, the discourse that has turned us into blue and red, the voices of hatred and anger, and yes, violence. And in some ways, then the real struggle, and it may be dripping on some of us. Shortly, I'll step forward or back and think about it. There you go. Get in out of the rain, and I'll stop for a minute. All right, who was in charge of weather? We're going to unplug a little bit of gear, and we'll pick back up in just a second. Yeah, there's seats up front if y'all need them. Okay, whoever did the weather did a good job. Back to Richard Haas. And he has a simple idea for you, and I promise it will be challenging. He says that the heartbeat of who we are is to strengthen, nurture, and make sure that we take care of the civil liberties and the rights of every person. But he said we need something else. We need to return to a day when citizenship, and I think it still is with us, also includes obligation. That you cannot have rights without obligation. And so I'm talking with you, not at you. I struggle with these things as well. We are constantly reminded of rights because we are so individualistic, but also we are a country. There is a team. There is an America. It is all of us together, or it will be none of us together. And these have been troubling times. Let's be honest. We have seen troubling things, and we need to be troubled by them. They're not the first time. They will not be the last time. But they are our time. Just like the men and women here who stepped up when they were asked to serve, we are being called to serve as citizens every day. All of us. That's what Haas reminded me of. The country is not easy to govern. It's not easy to change direction, but it has some traction, I think. It has a couple of 100 years of traction. So his ideas are simple, that we write a new Bill of Obligations and not enforce it, put it out for everybody. Just like the founders of our country wrote the Articles to pull themselves together, wrote a Constitution, and have continued to work on the Bill of Rights that serve us all. So his ideas are these, real simple. Pick up the book, pick up an extraction of the book, and think about it with me. Be informed. Number 2, get involved. Be open to compromise. Remain civil, and at all costs reject violence. Value norms, and we have them. Aren't these good things? Thank you. And by the way, that is the voice of the church. We are the church. Promote the common good first and respect the people who serve in our government. And that is really important because we have lost our respect. He's right. Teach civics. I'd never read the Federalist Papers. I own it. That's ridiculous. I need to be reading and thinking. I'm a grandparent now. I'm not through putting a little traction into this, and neither are you. Some of you are young, raising your children. We need to teach civics to understand what do we really do, not what we want to do. We all want to do what we want to do. I do too. I want it to work a certain way. It's slow, it's tedious, it's hard to manage, but it's not impossible. And his last one is the call that I've had since I was a young man and heard it, a clarion call from the people who raised me. Put your country first. Put your country first. Those aren't hard ideas, are they? Politics will always separate us. Always. They always have, they always will, and at times they will seem pernicious. But freedom does not separate us. A republic does not separate us. And that's how it feels when I'm at church. That's why the church's voice is important. We are not separated. We are one together. You know, at the beginning of all this deal, how many people lived in America? How many? 3 million. And they were mostly clustered in the northeastern states. We have 333 million Americans, and it's going north of that quickly. We are growing tremendously. Across the divides of our incredible expanse, the ways our heritage serve us, the ways our history speak to us, it is a complicated deal. We should not, the church should not let it be uncomplicated. It is complicated. Our job is to make it civil. Our job is to make it work. It's your job and mine. And man, if I heard that resounding in me, when my spirit is to divide, when my spirit is to bark, is to slow down a second. Somebody has to emulate the behavior that we all want to practice. I'm going to start with me. Now, I don't want you to get up, but I want you to do something with me because everybody has done this. Every person here, and it exists today. If you go to the Episcopal School, of Knoxville, if you go to any institution that can still do these things, public schools do it as well. They start the day with the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's printed for you, and I want you to say it with me. If you don't know it, it's written there. How many of you started your day with this every day? Literally, raise your hands. Literally every day. It's ingrained in my soul. This is a fabric of who we are. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice and all. And then we would have a prayer. And then my day would start. Let's do it again. Amen.